a good morning from the Phoenix International Raceway in the Valley of the Sun. The NASCAR Nationwide Series teams preparing for their first and only practice of today. Kevin Harvick be one of the main players in the action here. Weather is just gorgeous, not a cloud in the sky. Temperature about 63 degrees with a high of 87, 88 later this afternoon. Couldn't ask for better conditions to race on here in Phoenix. And good morning, everybody. Steve Burns alongside handsome Hermie Sadler and Jeff Hammond. And Jeff, we just saw a shot of Kevin Harvick. This is, in fact, Harvick country for many reasons.
Well, a lot of reasons right there. His operation, they've won 7 races here at Phoenix. He's one of the only 2 other drivers that's won in all 3 series, along with Kyle Busch as far as Sprint Cup, the Nationwide Series, as well as trucks. But he's coming here with a hot hand, winning at Nashville. KHI on a whole has been on a roll in 2010, and I don't think anything is short of a miracle is going to stop him this weekend. It's going to be very, very difficult to slow Kevin Harvick down at this racetrack.
Hermie, I talk about the schedule here. They're going to practice, qualify, in race, which is old school. We like that. And the drivers talk about this place, although it's a mile, races like a short track.
Feels just like a short track. I mean, you got 2 completely different ends of this racetrack. Turns 1 and 2, a little bit more banking, but a sharper corner. But my focus today in practice, if I'm driving, is going to be turns 3 and 4. It's a long, sweeping, flat corner that you can pick up a lot of time or lose a lot of time getting back on this straightaway, and it can really affect your lap time in a good or bad way. So let's see who can get their car working through these corners and get around this racetrack. It's going to be changing all day long, Steve.
Well, joining us here for breakfast in Phoenix is Wendy Venturini. Good morning, Wendy.
Good morning, Steve. Yes, an early morning here on the West Coast in Phoenix. And you guys mentioned being basically a one-day show for the Nationwide Garage. A lot of people like us feel it's a different kind of schedule. But for crew chief Ernie Cope, crew chief for Kevin Harvick, it's business as usual coming off the win last week. They are sitting out this practice for a good 10 to 15 minutes, Ernie said. Kevin Harvick and Ernie just having a conversation, taking it easy this morning, letting the track rubber up, and that can make a big difference in getting some valuable information for the car later on. Steve?
All right, thank you very much, Wendy. 44 cars here. Reed Sorensen in the 32 had a good run in Nashville last weekend.
A very good run last weekend, and you know I find it kind of a little bit strange because of the fact that, you know, Kevin Harvick waiting on this racetrack to go through maybe a little bit of a transition, because I honestly would have thought I'd want to get out early while the racetrack is cool, which would kind of be a lot closer to the temperature they're going to see later on tonight. And you got to realize that the NASCAR West Series, the K&N West Series, has already been practiced on this racetrack, so you got to believe it's got a little bit of rubber on the track.
Well, they may be concerned, on the other hand, may be concerned about that rubber not matching up with the rubber on these Nationwide Series cars too, but kind of hard to question what Ernie Cope and Kevin Harvick have done. What a great call last week at Nashville. 2 tires. I mean, had no idea that would hold up for the win, but a great call by those guys. Clean air seems like it's important everywhere we go.
Yeah, and you talk about important and guys coming and going. I look at Justin Allgaier, got a win at Bristol a few weeks ago, 3rd right now in the Nationwide Point Series race is concerned. He's getting better each and every week. And guys, I've got to believe Justin Allgaier's improvement has to be somewhat because of the addition of Brad Keselowski, his teammate, when it comes to racing in this series. I think these 2 guys and everybody at Penske Racing, they've stepped it up a notch here in 2010, because I never would have believed that you would say Penske Racing would be contending for a championship with not just 1 car, but with 2.
Yeah, and I tell you, I think Justin Allgaier sometimes maybe, Jeff, gets overlooked a little bit as far as being very, very competitive because of Brad Keselowski. But I think this guy, Justin Allgaier, when he straps that helmet on, gets in that car, he may not show it on the outside, but when he gets inside that car, he'll race you. And he has done that all year long and has great results so far this season.
Worst finish for Justin Allgaier this season, 9th in Atlanta. Top 10 finishes in all 5 starts. Now, we should mention as we take a look at Colin Brown, he is outside the top 30 in points. He is going to have to qualify his way in today. And although he's run well here in the Camping World Truck Series, that's still a tough position to be in. We go off the 2010 owner points starting this weekend.
Well, it's a mental thing for him. It's got to be. You know, his confidence has got to be shaking right now. There's only 44 cars here for 43 spots. So, you know, equipment-wise, Jeff, he's in good shape. He's got the equipment to get it done. But you know, inside his mind, that's got to be weighing on him right now.
Oh, that's true. And we got trouble guys already in turn 4. We got a car right up against outside safety barrier right up in the middle number 15 car, Michael Annette, and he made some pretty heavy contact with that outside wall. And Larry, I mean, Hermie, the thing was, you were talking about it earlier, how you can get yourself in trouble in that flat part of that racetrack, and you need to work on that, getting your car hooked up there.
Michael Annette, yeah, he hadn't even gotten the green. He hadn't even made a lap yet, Steve, so he was just getting on the racetrack.
It's bad. I don't know what the hell happened. I wasn't even going fast.
What do you think, Hermie?
I mean, obviously he was on sticker tires, just coming off pit road, and probably just didn't get hooked up as well as he thought, and got away from him and got in the wall there in turns 3 and 4. But heavy damage to the left side and the right rear of that race car. He'll definitely be going to a backup.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, Wendy's hard at work. We'll talk about what this does to Michael Annette with this schedule. Under caution at the Phoenix International Raceway, 5 minutes into practice, Michael Annette into the wall between turns 3 and 4. Heavy contact to his race car coming off of a top 10 finish at Nashville. Now, guys, I want to talk about, as we look at Annette in the garage, with the schedule the way it is, one practice, what are some of the choices they have to make now, Jeff?
Well, number one is whether they can effectively repair that car, or whether going to the backup will be the fastest as well as the most efficient thing to do. And, you know, again, they've only got a 2-hour practice, so it normally takes about an hour to get a car back on the racetrack. So they've got to make a really quick decision. I'm talking about the next 30 or 40 seconds what they're going to do.
These kind of decisions have to be made and prepared for at the shop before you ever come out to Phoenix. If they're not ready, you don't have a backup car ready to roll off and have it on the racetrack within 30 or 45 minutes, they're going to be in some trouble today. But this will tell us a lot about this 15 team and how prepared they were to come out here, because you never know when something like this can happen.
Kevin Harvick getting prepared to get into his race car on the Hans device with the helmet. And we just saw on board with Stephen Wallace a moment ago, racing with, I think, 2 broken bones in one of his feet.
Yeah, we saw him on crutches a little earlier, riding on board right now with Stephen. You know, had a pretty heavy accident last weekend at Nashville. And you see him there inside the race car.
That was a wicked hit he took.
Yeah,
and
it really was.
Really wasn't anything he could do. It was the wrong place at the wrong time, but he got turned right at head on into the fence in Nashville in turn 3, probably one of the fastest parts of that racetrack. And so luckily he wasn't hurt any worse than he was. That was a wicked accident at Nashville last week.
Said there's a lot of pain, but he intends to try to go the distance later on this evening.
Right now he's 27th after 1 lap on the racetrack. Again, trying to adjust all that, Hermie. I mean, playing hurt, it's not easy, and especially with a race car driver, this is a place where you're going to wind up using both the gas, obviously, as well as the brake. So if you got a broke foot, that could be a challenge.
Well, the same thing people have asked me all week. How do you think Denny Hamlin, will do this weekend at Phoenix? And it's not just the physical side of it. From a driver, you need to be 110% focused on your car on this racetrack and what it's doing. And if you got something else that concerns you, it could throw you off.
Hermie on board now with Landon Castle. Of course, Danica Patrick ran the first 3 races of the year in that 7 car. Scott Wimmer in for a couple races. And now Castle, a young driver, will be in this car for the next 4 races consecutively through Richmond.
I think that's going to help them as far as getting some continuity back in this team and making it a little easier. I mean, they've got a great leader in Tony Ura Jr., but anytime you can get a driver there for multiple races, so you can kind of get used to working with their setup and communication, I think it's a big improvement. And this 7 car, they're still trying to keep it up as far as in the top 30 in points, so that would eventually, when Danica does come back, they got a little bit of a cushion there in case she doesn't qualify very well.
Let's go to Wendy. She's with Michael Annette.
Thanks, Steve. Michael Annette out of his race car. Damage on both sides, Michael. First of all, give us a description of what happened on that very cool racetrack, and is your backup car ready?
It will be ready, and it looks like we're going to be able to put this motor in, and that way, we'll get some good practice laps, and we won't have to start in the back. So it's just a shame. I didn't even get to make a full lap. I don't know. Never had something like that happen here. The track's usually not that cold, and tires usually aren't that bad. So my fault. Just try getting up to speed too quick, and should have been a little more patient.
All right, thanks to Michael Annette. A tough start to his day. Steve?
It is that, Wendy. Thanks very much. And but he said it was totally my fault.
Yeah, I tell you, sometimes, when Jeff alluded to it, this is the coolest and the most grip this racetrack is going to have all day. And sometimes you want to get it there on new tires, Jeff, and put down that good fast lap at the first part of practice to kind of gets the practice started off the right way. This time he just overstepped that line just a little bit.
Well, I can also think, excuse me, that maybe he got a little bit forgetting that there's not a lot of banking down there. After you come through 1 and 2, think, okay, I'm going down the back straightaway, and I'm going to get the same kind of help that I'd get in 1 and 2. But you're not going to get it in 3 and 4. And again, he got away from it.
Jeff, rightly so. You just talked about Kevin Harvick. How about Kyle Busch at this racetrack in the 18 car, 9 starts, 2 wins, 4 top 5 finishes?
Another one of those guys you better not overlook is this Kyle Busch in this number 18. Because we know how good Joe Gibbs Racing is across the board when it comes to the Nationwide Series. And this weekend, that could be where the battle's really going to come from for Kevin Harvick. Could be this 18 car and Kyle Busch. Because again, we've talked about it. He's won here in all 3 series.
27 car driven by Greg Biffle, and he is another guy that gets around this place in a big way.
Yeah, he's got 3 wins.
Yes, sir.
He's tied with his with a teammate Carl Edwards for 3 wins here at this racetrack in the Nationwide Series.
I tell you, he's been a big lift for that 27 team too. They put him in this car. Greg really wanted to get up there and run some Nationwide Series races, so that's a great combination. It helps both people. Gets Greg on the racetrack some on Fridays and Saturdays, and it's giving that 27 team a good shoe behind the wheel there.
Yeah, I think 8th in points right at the moment, and again, I think they're right on the verge of breaking through and getting that number 27 car a win pretty soon with Greg behind the wheel.
And Hermie, to your point, this is not a Roush Fenway car.
It's not. No, it's
Baker Curb.
Yeah, Baker Curb Racing out of Tennessee, and they, Greg, it just matched up perfectly. Greg Biffle was available, and these guys needed a good, experienced driver to show what this team can do, and it's been a great combination.
Brendan Gaughan, a teammate to Stephen Wallace. There he is in the 62.
Got his first top 10 finish last week at Nashville. Kind of a surprise because, Brendan's been fast at a couple of racetracks, but he hasn't been able to get any kind of luck or any kind of consistency with this number 62 team so far this year. So it's about, I guess you might say it's about time for him to break through and got a top 10 finish.
Yeah, just 16th in points. He did pick up 8 positions at Nashville.
And those guys are trying to do a partnership kind of with Joe Gibbs Racing, get some cars and equipment from them. But both of those guys, Steve Wallace and Brendan Gaughan, have really had some bad luck on the racetrack and messed up a lot of equipment. And like you say, you need to be able to work on your stuff. You go to a racetrack, and if you have a 15th place finish, that's okay if you can take it back and work on it again. But they need to get some races finished so they can work on this stuff and make it better.
Exactly. Well, right now it's working pretty well for him. He's 4th quick on as far as his practice session is concerned.
Hermie, looks like, does he have a little chunk missing off the splitter?
Yeah, it looks like the front valence, which is very important here. It looks like he's got a little bit of a piece of that valence. You can see it right there has been knocked loose. So they'll check that out when he gets on the pits. But that's you want to take advantage of every inch of that valence on the front of these Nationwide cars.
Now on board with Kevin Harvick, and as Jeff said, he has been on fire in this 2010 season. Qualify, of course, later today and race this evening. 13 of the 16 Nationwide Series races have been won from a top 4 starting position.
Okay, guys, I was watching Kevin on the in-car when he was first going out, and it sounded to me like he was coming up through the gears, and I heard him almost like he spun the tires. Just a second ago, I heard the car like he went around the corner, almost like it bottomed out, and then when he got to pick the throttle up, I heard it buzz the tires almost again, and you can see him inside there, Hermie. He's really having to work this thing. I'm just wondering if these tires take a little bit, a lap or 2 to get some heat in them before they start feeling good, plus maybe lower air pressure.
Yeah, it looked like to me that whole first lap, he gave that lap up to get some heat in the tires and kind of scuff the tires. Maybe he was watching Michael Annett and learned a little something from that, but you can see the way he's working the wheel.
Well, watch him slide up the racetrack, but look at his lap times. He's almost 3 seconds off of what Brad Keselowski in the 22 cars has run.
Hermie, from a driver's standpoint, what's the key to getting around this 1-mile racetrack?
Well, we talk about it a lot on these type of racetracks. Now, this is a 1-mile racetrack, but as you said, it drives like a short track. You can easily overdrive these corners. A lot of braking in turn 1, but you want to make your speed up, getting off of turn 2 onto the back straightaway, and get your car pointed right in the middle of turns 3 and 4, and get a good run off turn 4. So it's a very technical racetrack when you get on and off the accelerator, but you want to not overdrive the corner, make the straightaways longer by picking the gas up sooner, and the guys can do that, or the guys that will be fast here this weekend.
Jason Leffler is going to begin serving a 3-race probation because of an altercation he had with 19-year-old James Busher last weekend in Nashville.
A little bit like Carl Edwards, same
so.
type of retaliation. He felt he did it to Keselowski at Atlanta. NASCAR responded by putting him on a 3-race suspension. Temper, temper, temper.
Boys will be boys. That's all I can say, Hermie. Hermie just shakes his head.
I just shake my head.
We are 20 minutes into a 2-hour practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series teams. A good look at the front stretch, which is arrow straight, which is very different from the back stretch. There's a good look back down. There it is, Hermie. You see that dog leg?
Okay, coming off turn 2, and you come through this dog leg and really carrying a lot of speed through this dog leg. And you really, once you go through here, through the dog leg, you want to get as far as you can out to this wall to get a good run going in turn 3. You got to stay that late entry we talk about, Jeff, because if you go in turn 3 too sharp, you got to turn the wheel too many times, it can really hurt your speed.
There's Carl Edwards. Leads Brad Keselowski by 16 points in the standings. Keselowski quickest right now, followed by Biffle and Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, and Joey Logano.
But you know, I find this kind of funny to a certain degree that these two guys are 1 and 2, and neither one of them have won a race so far this year, but they're 1-2 in the points, so 16 points separate, as you said earlier. I would have thought by now that Carl would have visited victory lane.
You know, Carl really slumped at Nashville. He finished 6th, his worst finish of the year.
You're going to have days like that every now and then in racing.
Take a look at Tony Raines getting around this Phoenix International Raceway and check in with Bob Dillner.
And right now, Brendan Gaughan inside his race car, chilling out just a little bit. He's very happy with this race car, a little tight in the middle, but he's 6th quick right now. And his crew chief, Brad Parrott, told me this is the best they've been early on in a practice session all year long, but I want to show you maybe why he's 6th quick and not even higher. Take a look at what the crew is doing right here. They're putting a piece of aluminum flashing on the valance right now because Brendan hit something on the racetrack, so that has to deal with the aero dependency for the handling of this race car. So they're going to actually patch this right now and make sure that it's level all the way through with this piece of aluminum. You can see them cutting it right now. They're going to actually drill a hole in there and rivet it on, but a little patchwork going on for Brendan Gaughan this morning here at Phoenix.
Hey, Bob, I can tell you right now, I know what he hit on the racetrack. The racetrack, you can see that whole bottom edge of the valance, the way it's ground off. He just caught that corner when it went down and it busted it off. You can see it's got the split right in the center there, and the team working to make that repaired. I imagine what they're trying to do, Hermie, they just want to use that for the time being till they figure out exactly where they are as far as ground clearance, and they'll put a fresh one on for the start of the race.
Yeah, I tell you, that little hole doesn't look like much, but that is big time. You work all year long to engineer how to get that valance to seal across the racetrack, so any opening can really hurt you.
You want it to skim lightly, just like you saw Scott Legacy's car in the 43. His was right down on the racetrack, but not skipping and breaking the edge off.
It would have made a better story if we said he'd hit a rattlesnake. I'll settle for the race.
Or jackrabbit?
Yes, jackalope.
Jackalope.
Scott Legacy is a teammate to Greg Biffle at Baker Curb, and just read that Scott Legacy just settled into a new place in Nashville, Tennessee, and said he's going to be in the shop as much as he can, working with the proverbial boys in the shop.
And that's huge too. The guys want to see the driver in the shop during the week. If you have a good week, it's a good time to build that morale. If you have a bad week, the driver needs to be in there digging with the crew guys. Okay, what can y'all do better to make us a better team, and what can I do better? Time at the shop with the guys is very important.
Let's go back to Wendy in the garage.
Reed Sorensen, 8th fastest in this practice session, says they need to work on the right rear of that race car. Needs to get turn 4 a little bit better for Reed. Now, keep in mind, he's coming off a 2nd place finish in Nashville and only his 2nd start for Braun Racing. He has a few races scheduled for Braun here in the Nationwide Garage, and 5 Cup races scheduled with Braun Racing starting next week at Texas. And I chatted with Reed earlier this week on NASCAR Race Hub. He was really excited to be with Braun Racing and looking forward to coming into Phoenix after a 2nd place run in Nashville.
Thanks, Wendy. You see on the deck lid there, Autism Speaks. It's Autism Awareness Month. The crew chief on this car, Trent Owens, has a 2-year-old autistic son. For more information, you see on your screen, autismspeaks.org.
I like the slogan right now. It's time to listen.
I like that.
It is.
That's a great logo, and obviously my family affected by autism as well, so April is a big month as far as not just raising money, but creating that awareness for autism. And we appreciate all the fans that are watching at home, and all the families that are affected appreciate all the recognition that autism gets during the month of April.
I like your autism shades. Those Oakleys are pretty cool.
They are cool.
The puzzle logo.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Him and his brother Elliot wearing those, and
our director Artie Kempner, I see him sporting a pair a couple weeks ago.
I'm sure you got those for him. He didn't. I know he didn't buy them.
Who, Artie?
Yeah.
He already doesn't buy much.
Yeah, he even offered that he knows where his wallet is. He can't reach it.
well, he just had shoulder surgery.
He's got alligator arms. That's the problem. Hey, speaking of alligator arms, you guys are big football fans. You know who I saw this morning?
No.
Larry Fitzgerald from the Arizona
really?
Cardinals. Yep.
Cool. That's great. You working out together?
Nope. He was doing a local TV interview here at the racetrack.
When you walk by, did he say, "What's up, Steve"?
He did not.
Didn't.
But I
He
thought
just
with
didn't see you.
Artie Kempner's NFL connections, he could have worked some magic to get Larry Fitzgerald on the show.
Why didn't you just invite him?
He was doing an interview.
Well, interrupt him like you interrupt me and Hermie.
I should have. Brad Keselowski is the quickest. He's followed by Biffle and Carl Edwards. The Estrella Mountains, a majestic backdrop, Hermie.
Beautiful. Just like Emporium.
We're back at Phoenix International. Beautiful morning here in the Valley of the Sun on board. Great shot, Hermie, looking up at Kevin Harvick in that driver's seat.
And if somebody you want to watch to see how he gets around this racetrack, we talked about it, Kevin Harvick. Great stats at this racetrack. And Jeff, we saw him earlier, first time on the racetrack. Spent a couple laps against him heating the tires and kind of scuffing them, but he was able to finally get his speed up a little bit. 7th quickest right now, but that goes to show you. These guys may have some trouble getting these cars up to speed during qualifying because it seems like these cars are taking a little bit of time to hook up.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a tricky situation, and I think in the series they make them run on new tires, so you don't have an opportunity to knock the new off of them like maybe you'd like to. But definitely the 33 was out of control early on, but he's got it hooked up right now and he's looking pretty sporty as always.
Well, Bob Dillner, Greg Biffle, second quit to Brad Keselowski, putting his 18th lap on this PIR racetrack.
Yeah, Biffle and crew chief Ricky Byers like this race car right now. Biffle says it's cutting really good in the center of the corner. A little bit too good right now, so they're trying to tighten it up just a little bit for Greg Biffle, but it's actually been an ongoing debate between him and the team. Should they tighten it up right now? Because we all know this race is later on tonight, and you want a good cutting car. And as we get near nighttime, this track is going to tighten up even that much more. So right now, they're actually scratching their heads and trying to figure out if they should leave the car alone or keep on tuning on it.
Hey, Bob, that gets to the point we talked about early. See Jason Leffler walking through the garage. Jeff, so what do you do? How many laps do you run in this practice with 2 hours in front of you? And you know that track's going to change.
As I said earlier, I think it's important that you get your best feel and your best setup underneath the car here early on. I think in another 30 minutes, this racetrack's going to be so hot and slick, you're going to get even more confused than what you are right now. We're hearing, from a veteran like Greg Biffle, who's raced here an awful lot at Phoenix, and Ricky Byers, they got a lot of experience here, and they're kind of like questioning, should we do this to the car or do that to the car? That's where experience and patience, I think, are going to come into play. If your car is close, don't dial yourself out of the ballpark, Steve. Build some tunability into it and put it back in the driver's hands. I think this racetrack, of a lot of racetracks we go to, the driver can really have a lot of influence. He can hunt around, run some different lines. How he enters and exits the corners is huge, and building some tunability into the car. That's where this combination is going to really come into play during this early part of the practice session. Get it tunable and drivable and let your driver handle it.
Hermie, I want to get back to the James Buescher. He's there in the one car, Jason Leffler incident. I watched it at home on Saturday a week ago. No question, James Buescher got up into Jason Leffler, first third of that race, let's say. There's Jason. Put Jason in the wall. Jason's had a rough start to the season. It's much like, to me, the Carl Edwards-Brad Keselowski situation. The 38 car of Leffler's was behind the wall for a long time. He went back out there, made contact with Buescher. Now, NASCAR has said, have at it. And that we've talked about this a bit. We're taking the gloves off, but your thoughts on what happened at Nashville?
Well, I think James Buescher just got in over his head a little bit in that corner, and the car got away from him. He did not intentionally drive down in turns 1 and 2 and drive up into the side of Jason Leffler. He went in there, the car got loose, he chased it up the racetrack and made contact. Those kind of things happen when you run side by side. To me, you know, and I understand Jason Leffler wanting to come back out and make a statement, hey, nobody's gonna you know, run into me, and
right.
I'm gonna you know, hold my ground. But to me, that's when the crew chief and other people with the crew have got to come in and you know, maybe let him see the footage and see the tape and maybe not make some of these rash decisions. But I think Carl Edwards doing it. Now everybody, the floodgates are kind of opening. Everybody's saying, okay, if somebody runs into me, what have I got to do? I got to go run into them, or I'm not, you know, I'm not a man about it. So, but I don't think Leffler necessarily did the right thing there.
I think one thing I want to point out here when it comes to James Buescher, I think he's made some mistakes this year. He's in I think a pressure situation, driving the one car like he is, and he is a rookie.
20 years old.
He needs to be sat down and talked to, not maybe turned around. A situation like that.
Bob Dillner.
Well, Steve Burns, I want to show you a little bit on the front end of the 27 car. Remember, we showed you Brendan Gaughan and some of those holes of where his valence was actually hitting the ground. Well, take a look at this. Greg Biffle has been hitting the pavement just a little bit, too. He's got a bunch of little cutouts here. They're actually not actually repairing that right now. They're just going to let it sit for right now. But Greg Biffle very hard on the racetrack with his valence as well, as indicated by these holes in his valence.
Herman, you got to believe that some of this is happening because these guys are running low air pressure, trying to run these race setups, and they're going to have to figure it out because you don't want to do that damage to your race car and have to start the race and have it like that during the course of the race. So you got to get that fine line figured out pretty quick.
And that's what you do in practice. A lot of times you put these little feelers on the bottom of them to kind of wear it off to get to that point, and these guys don't get a lot of test time to figure it out.
Tomorrow, the Rolex Sports Car Series rolls into Alabama. Here, Brian Frizzell looks to get even with Mima Rojas, and Mazda continues to dominate the GT class. Don't miss the Rolex Sports Car Series live from Birmingham tomorrow, 1:30 Eastern, and only on Speed. Let's go back to the garage and Wendy.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski fastest on the speed chart this morning. The speed's there, it looks good. How does it feel, Brad?
Really good. I feel really lucky to be driving cars that drive this good because they make my job, you know, really easy. So everybody at Penske Racing has done a great job with this nationwide program, and to get it up to speed as quickly as we have is, you know, a major accomplishment. So just keep clicking away, strong runs, strong finishes. We want to get the first win of the year for Discount Tire. That would mean a lot to me. So this is a great place to do it here at Phoenix, and hopefully if we can keep the speed up, we'll do that.
How difficult is it to find which area the car needs improvement when you're putting up the fast speeds?
Well, you know, I was really surprised it's that fast, but I guess I shouldn't have been. It's really hard to know where to work on your cars here because the tire fall off is so severe. So, you know, you try to be smart about that, but it's very difficult.
All right, thanks to Brad. He has 6 starts here at Phoenix. His best finish of 3rd. Steve.
Thanks, Wendy. Want to mention, too, Brad Keselowski, 2nd in points. His teammate Justin Allgaier, 3rd.
And the key thing when you talk about being faster at this racetrack, 13 of the 16 nationwide races here at Phoenix have been won from a top 4 starting position, including the last 7. I mean, it's so important to be up front here, and having a fast race car like Brad Keselowski has is a big plus when you think about those statistics and how it kind of plays out here. And his big reason for wanting to win here for Discount Tire, this is their main headquarters. I had the privilege of spending some time with him at a corporate event yesterday, and they are very excited about being a part of that number 22 car team for Penske Racing this year. And Discount Tire is, I guess you might say, they're proud as a peacock right now.
And this is not a very long race either, 200 laps. You know, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Qualifying here can be such a tremendous, you know, benefit if you qualify up front, or you can run top 5 in practice all day. But if you qualify 20th, you have a hard time coming back through the pack to win this race. So qualifying is going to be very important.
We saw Paul Menard a moment ago. Now we're taking a look at Casey Mears. Great to see him back. He's in the 10 car this weekend for Braun Racing. And of course, we'll be standing by for Denny Hamlin, who's had ACL surgery on his knee in that 11 car in the Sprint Cup Series.
Yeah, good to see Casey back in a competitive car. I mean, the last 7 or 8 races of last year with Richard Childress Racing, Casey Mears had a lot of momentum going, and you know he's been anxious to get back to the racetrack, and he could take this 10 car to a really good finish tonight. Would do a lot for his confidence, I think. 5
different drivers in the 10 car in the last 5 nationwide series races.
Well, right now he's 13th quickest in his practice session, and you talk about trying to get somebody's confidence back up. I mean, solid runs, being competitive, that's the way you build that kind of confidence. And this, the other thing I think is important about this is seek time for him to be ready to jump in that car for Joe Gibbs Racing if necessary. You know, I think is just equally as important. I mean, having that, you know, confidence in knowing the racetrack like he needs to do, be able to substitute possibly for Denny Hamlin, that'd be a big plus for him. Michael McDowell, 81 car.
I read that he's going to be doing some driving instruction coming up this week. Some drivers are going to the Bob Bondurant School in Firebird, Arizona. Let's go back to the garage. Bob has an update on Kelly Byers.
Well, Kelly Byers has the Whiskey River scheme on his junior motorsports car this weekend. He's 10th quick, but they're not happy, so they're going back to square one. They're going to put this car up on the scale pads and check things out. He's a little tight in the center, but Kelly says, you know what? This car is hopping all over the place in the corners on the rear end. He says it's just not a comfortable feeling, so they're changing the shocks on this machine right now to go back to actually something they tried here last year with this race car. So right now, Kelly Byers not liking the feel of his car, Hermie, especially because it's hopping all over the place.
Yeah, and Jeff, you may want to add to this a little bit of a shock combination. It could be that too. These guys very aggressive with these shocks to get that valence we've talked about. Keep it fronty and plane it to the racetrack. But if you go too far, it can be difficult for the driver to hang on.
We're 40 minutes into a 2-hour practice. We'll be right back to the Phoenix International Raceway here on Speed. Take a look at the track description, and Hermie, we've talked about it. It's a mile in length, but it's also extremely flat. Just 11 degrees of banking down in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, but turns 1 and 2, you heavy braking, getting down into the corner. You carry a lot of speed down this front straightaway. Want to get the car rotated. You do have 11 degrees of banking. It seems like a little bit more than that. Actually, you get off turn 2, go through the dog leg, but turns 3 and 4, as I said, 9 degrees, but certainly looks a little bit you know, flatter than that. So, but very difficult, very technical racetrack to drive.
But now, Hermie, you were talking a little earlier about a start-finish line here. We go down into turn 1. I want you to look at how rough this racetrack is. You can see a lot of the patching because of the heat here, the way the track is kind of, you know, separated. They've had to go back and work on it. One of the bigger challenges, not only this back straightaway and going into turn 3 and 4 where it's very flat, you were talking about it, you watch him here, Carl gets out of the throttle, trying to get back down to the bottom, but how shocks could really come into play of keeping that car hooked up.
Yeah, shocks are a big key here. Watch Carl Edwards, he goes in turn 1, Jeff. Heavy on the brake right here. When these guys get racing, they'll actually start going below this yellow line in the race to get more grip and help the car turn. Right now, Carl's standing on the racetrack, but getting down on the apron later tonight, well, you'll see some of these guys will really help de-wedge the race car a little bit, and they'll be using all the racetrack and then some, as you see him right now, getting real close to that yellow line.
It's a driver's racetrack, isn't it, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, you can move around. You can help or hurt your race car by how you drive this track, and as a driver, you like that. You don't want to be stuck to what you've got. You want to be able to help yourself a little bit. This racetrack allows you to do that.
Go back to the garage and Bob Dillner.
Well, you guys were talking about the 3-race probation for this guy right here, Jason Leffler, and we were just chatting about the incident with James Busher a couple weeks ago, and I want to know from you your reaction to the probation and if that will affect your driving style, Jason.
Well, first of all, I expected to be on the probation, and probably expected to be parked for the rest of the race there, so no, it won't really affect my driving. You know, we're going to drive the Great Clips Camry just as hard as we always do. You won't see an incident like you saw in Nashville again.
Have you
not in the next 3 races?
Not in the next 3 races, okay. Have you and Busher had a chance to talk about the situation?
No, we haven't talked at all. We never really have talked, so I'm sure we'll figure it out. I mean, we both got to get to the end of these things. They're way back in points. We're not where we need to be, and you know, that was at Nashville, so we're on to Phoenix. It's a totally different weekend.
Hey, Burnsy, I got a question for you. You've heard a lot of these interviews before. I think there's some underlying meanings in that interview there, don't you?
Oh, Bob, we started laughing. He said, at least not in the next 3 races, you won't have that. Yeah, you're exactly right.
But, you know, look at Jason Leffler, and I think Jeff Hammond touched on it too. It's not just what happened at Nashville that triggered that whole thing. This is a good race team. Jason Leffler is a good race car driver, and they've had more than their share of problems on the racetrack. A lot of them not of their own making, so that frustration builds up. You finally get to a place you think you're going to have a good run, and something like that happens. Jeff can be very frustrated.
And very frustrating indeed, and I don't think it was just that one incident that triggered what we saw at Nashville, riding here with Mike Wallace in the 01 car. These guys here have been putting a very respectable season together.
You know what? To your point, he's 8th in points. He doesn't have a top 10 finish, but there he is in top 10 in points.
Just steadily, you know, getting the job done. I mean, that's where Mike and him being a veteran, working with Johnny Davis, they're putting a very competitive race team together on a limited budget.
Brad Keselowski still the quickest. Stay with us here on Speed. Monday, don't miss an all-new episode of Fast Track to Fame. It's a talent competition so wild it could only happen trackside. Fast Track to Fame from Phoenix International Raceway, Monday, 8 Eastern, only on Speed. But just to clarify, not on the show trackside, but, you know,
yeah,
it happens trackside.
I'm going to be a part of it.
Oh!
I'm going to be a part of it tonight.
Are you a talent judge?
Yeah, I got no talent.
But you know talent when you see it.
I know talent when I see it. I got tips from my buddy here at Hermie Sadler. He's been a judge before.
He's not getting you in trouble, is he, Hermie?
I think he's trying. I'm not falling for it.
On board with Steve Wallace, again, racing with a lot of pain, a broken foot. And let's check in with Wendy.
Kyle Busch in the garage getting a lot of adjustments on his race car. He has 2 nationwide wins here at Phoenix. He was loose to start in the 15 laps that he's run so far, but inconsistent, so inconsistent he can hardly tell is the report from Kyle Busch. He's 5th on the practice chart right now. And what does a newly engaged man do on a few days off in between races? Well, he and his fiance, Sam Sarsanella, they headed to Chicago for some wedding planning. Steve Burns, as you know, that's probably the favorite part of every guy getting married, isn't it? Checking out flowers, cake testing.
Well, Wendy, all he's going to say is yes, yes, and yes. He does. He has that dazed look of, I can't believe we just spent how much on invitations? I thought Wendy was going to say he was picking out furniture. Just say yes, right?
The 22 car, Brad Keselowski, fastest one on the racetrack so far in this practice session.
Hammond must live in a different house than you and me, Hermie. I just say yes.
Whatever makes you happy.
That's right. Is it a hill worth dying for?
Hey, make sure you understand something. There's one house that I live in. It's called the dog house.
You make all the decisions there, don't you?
Right.
Brad Keselowski still the quickest. 19th lap of practice on the board. He's followed by Carl Edwards, Greg Biffle, Paul Menard, all in Fords, and Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch in a Toyota. 19-year-old Trevor Bayne. Jeff Hammond, you're an outdoorsman. You would have enjoyed this yesterday. Trevor Bayne spent some time with Michael Flores, who's on the junior national shooting team.
Yep, I read about that.
Trevor took him on some laps in a pace car, and then Michael Flores, who's only 16 years old, took him to a shooting range.
Right, showed him how to break ski and stuff like that. So, good day for young Trevor right there. So far, he's pretty fast in his practice session, too, for this young man. 7th quickest in his practice session.
Good line down here.
You know, Hermie, one thing about Trevor Bayne, for being such a young guy, I don't think he's learned yet how to finish races, but he is always fast.
He really is, and he handles his business very well outside the race car as well. He's got the media side of it done. He's great on TV, got a good attitude, and like you say, he knows how to go fast. The next step in his career is taking that speed and being able to harness it a little bit to get to the end of some of these races and finish as strong like he wants to and get that car in victory lane.
And the thing I like about it, you heard the spotter, you know, commenting, good line. That's the kind of stuff that's going to help build his confidence and make sure that he's able to do that consistently. And that's what these practice sessions are all about, is being able to repeat that perfect line every time, you know. So when it comes time to when they drop the green flag, you can do that during traffic let's face it, running by yourself is one thing, Hermie, but racing in traffic, that's where you really separate the men from the boys.
You know, we've been talking about the point situation where this is the first race where we go off the 2010 points. Johnny Sauter's in that 23 car this week. Robert Richardson's been driving it some. So they're going to put Johnny in the seat and hope he can pick up some points.
Well, he's a guy who sat on the pole here for the Craftsman Truck Series here this past November at Phoenix. So Johnny knows how to get around this racetrack. He runs extremely well here as well as at Milwaukee. I mean, another racetrack is 1 mile flat track. So good choice right there for the 23 guys.
Yeah, and they are 30th in owner points, that 23 car. So they need to have a good finish here. That's why Johnny Sauter's in that seat. Mike Bliss in the 40 car, an unsponsored entry this weekend. Car is owned by Curtis Key. Gary Showalter, the crew chief. Closing in on an hour of a 2-hour practice. Stay with us here in Phoenix on Speed. There's your leaderboard from Phoenix International Raceway, about halfway through this 2-hour practice. Keselowski has been quickest just about from the start. You see Kelly Byers. These drivers we've heard from Bob and Wendy going through a lot of adjustments on this tricky 1 mile track. Let's go back to the garage and the aforementioned Mr. Dillner.
Well, Steve, on top of the Penske racing rig here in the Nationwide Series garage, and I found this guy, Steve Addington, the crew chief for the 2 car with Kurt Busch on the Sprint Cup side. And whenever a Cup crew chief comes to the Nationwide garage, everybody wants to know, what are you doing over here?
Oh, I just came over here. We work real close with Paul and Chad over here on the Nationwide side here at Penske Racing. We just came over to check air pressure stuff, what they were fighting, just touching base with them. This is the first time we've been back to Phoenix with Penske Racing, so just trying to get a feel for the way they work things here and how what the Nationwide drivers are saying about their cars and the trends of the racetrack, because we're going to start practice at 10 o'clock, and that's going to be our big feed off of how it's going to be race conditions. So this is probably the best time the way we're going to start the race. So just seeing how the track is and the grip level, and just seeing a trend of which way the cars are going.
Hey, we were just chit-chatting about what we were doing on our off weekends. Why don't you tell the folks at home and show them what's going on with your arm over there?
Oh, we got a little bit too much tan. It's peeling now, so we went down and had some fun down at St. Martin and just hung out for a couple of days. It was hard to come back. That's pretty nice down there, but like you said, the paychecks quit coming if you stay down there, so we got to come back and go to work.
There you go. He's back to work here at Phoenix, guys.
Well, Bob, just as soon as they have a race in the Caribbean, I think a lot of us will sign up.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be glad to do a site survey.
I'll go with you.
Work.
There you see Bob climbing down from atop the transporter. Now, he mentioned Paul and Chad. Steve Addington did. That's Paul Wolf and Chad Walter, the respective crew chiefs for the Nationwide programs.
I think it's good to see Steve Addington over there. They talked about those two sides can work a lot together, and the cars are a lot different, Jeff. Nationwide cars to the Sprint Cup cars, but same tire and air pressure, those kind of things a crew chief can pick up on and learn some stuff.
He's looking for tendencies, just some kind of direction kind of look at. We're riding on board right now with Landon Castles, and he's 30th quick right now. Now, Landon hadn't got a lot of seat time so far this year, but he'll have the next 4 races, get an opportunity to work with this guy you see sticking his head in the window there. Landon talking to Tony Uri Jr., crew chief on the number 7 car.
Castle just 20 years old with just 26 Nationwide Series starts.
It's almost like he's talking about maybe the front end's doing one thing, and once it kind of goes down and kicking the back end out. So again, Tony Uri Jr. is one of the best in the business as far as figuring out what to do to a race car. So I'm sure they'll get that number 7 car a little quicker before the end of this practice.
Joey Logano, boy, he had a great run at Nashville, led 122 laps, but finished 8th. He's led more laps in Nationwide Series competition this year than any other driver.
He's sixth fastest so far today.
I was going to say, Hermie, but doesn't have a win. Yep. DWI says, don't care how many laps you lead, Burns. Just need to lead that last Couple inches.
Get the trophy.
Get the trophy.
As he likes to always say, just enough to win a turkey.
That's it. Let's go back to Wendy.
Carl Edwards was in for quite some time on scales. They didn't make drastic changes. However, he just went back on the racetrack, made one lap, and was not happy with those changes at all. He said the track bar was uncomfortable, felt a little bit too high. Turns 1 and 2 are really slowing Carl Edwards down. He said he's good for the first few laps, but it gets worse as he goes on. So Carl Edwards patiently waiting them for put the track bar back to where it was. Carl Edwards knows how to get around Phoenix. He has 3 wins here, Steve.
Yes, he does, Wendy. He is, this is one of Carl's favorite racetracks, to be certain. We're back on board with Justin Allgaier. You see just how flat this place really is as he heads down the front stretch. Hermie, they carry so much speed going into turn 1. You talked about not overdriving. Is that part of the problem or the issue for the drivers?
Absolutely it is. I mean, because you do have a little bit of banking down there, and you really think you can really take off and carry a lot of speed and in that corner. The problem is turns 1 and 2 is a very short corner, not as sweeping as turns 3 and 4, so you got to turn around and go back the other way. So you've got to be careful not to overdrive, and you want to get on the brakes while you're slowing down, entering the corner, but be off the brakes to roll through the center of that corner as well. So the driver, as Jeff and I have talked about, the driver can really make a big difference as far as making speed up at this racetrack.
Well, look at those numbers that Justin Allgaier has put on the board. And Hermie, he was on track side with Jeff and your brother Elliott and Larry and I last year. And Jeff, one thing that he said that stuck out, the hardest thing for him was learning patience. And I think we can say, Hermie, that he's turned the corner as far as that's concerned.
Well, look, a lot of these guys are coming in this series. They used to running, 50-lap features and even some shorter than that. They're used to having to get it all done right now. These races, it's a lot about patience, pit strategy, coming on pit road, a lot of things, a complete package it takes to win one of these races.
You're right about that. I think the other thing to go back to Steve's point would be, look at the environment this young man finds himself in, working with Kurt Busch, former Sprint Series champion. Now you're working with a guy like Brad Keselowski, and but to me, the key has to be Roger Penske himself. I mean, he is going to push you to go fast, but he's also going to teach you how to do it with patience and be successful. And I think, again, this whole nationwide series of Penske races put together is very, very impressive, at least early in the season.
The last time a driver started the season off with top 5 finishes, Jeff Green and Jason Keller in 2001. Any fan that recycles a mobile phone during the Samsung Mobile 500 Race Week, April 15th through 18th, will receive a limited edition 3D collector's pin and become eligible to win one of 3 unique grand prizes. Serving as Grand Marshal of the Samsung Mobile 500 and giving the command, gentlemen, start your engines, riding in the official pace car that will lead the field to the green prior to the green flag. That's at the Texas Motor Speedway. Go to texasmotorspeedway.com. We are under caution for the second time. John West Townley, heavy damage to that Zaxby's Chevrolet out of the Richard Childress Racing Stables.
Guys, I don't mind saying this. This is one of those times I almost wish the driver would have gotten off and gotten out and let him take the car back on a rollback. That car is severely damaged right there.
It's like he got loose right in the middle of 3 and 4, coming off turn 4 and got away from him.
This has been a rough track for John West Townley. Jeff, I remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, remember he wrecked a Nationwide car and a Camping World truck in almost the exact same spot in turn 4, this happening down in turn 2.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I just wondered, and maybe Wendy or Bob could check on it, it looked almost like he had put maybe some fresh tires on the way the car came around on him so quick. I mean, it was reasonably quick in this practice. His 14th quickest and run about 25 laps. So I'm just wondering maybe if they'd put new tires on it to try to make a run. But that is, you saw the team right now unloading the backup.
Second caution here in this NASCAR, one and only NASCAR Nationwide Series practice. First for Michael Annett, this one for John West Townley. Tonight, NASCAR begins its duel in the desert, and everyone is fired up for the ultimate Friday night house party as David Rudiman and A.J. Allmendinger stop by to join us for NASCAR Trackside, midnight Eastern, only on Speed. We're under caution for the second time. Let's see what's happened thus far. An hour and 5 minutes into a 2-hour practice. The first incident just 5 minutes in. Guys, Michael and Annette not even up to speed into the turn 4 wall.
See the frustration there on Michael and Annette trying to figure out what happened.
And then just moments ago, John West Townley backs it in hard into the turn 2 wall. That 1 hour and 5 minutes into this practice. John West Townley standing by with our Bob Dillner.
We're down here in the garage with John West Townley right now, and unfortunately, new tires. You suspected it, Jeff Hammond, but he did have new tires on there. What happened on the racetrack, John?
The first lap, went out there, we're just doing a mock qualifying run, and it just, I mean, there wasn't much grip there on the first lap, and things came in pretty good, it seemed like, on the second one. But I got off down to turn 1 and went to get in the gas, and as soon as I picked up the gas, I mean, it just started out from under me, and just in a 4-wheel slide all the way to the wall. I mean, I just, I tried to keep it out of it, but once it broke free, it was going.
Unfortunate for John West Townley. Got a cluttered pit area here because basically John West Townley was trying to drive his car in, Wendy, and it actually popped another tire and it couldn't move anymore. So it's a traffic jam down here in the pit area.
Yeah, and everyone heard that tire pop. It caught everybody's attention in the garage area here. Well, significant amount of laps have been run for Joey Logano, who's 6th fastest, about 30 laps so far for young Joey. Now, he said it's fine getting into 1. His biggest issue is turning in the center of 1 and 2. When it lands, it's fine, but when he turns across the racetrack, it gets a little bit tight, and when he gets on the gas, it's loose off. Now, Kevin Kidd, his crew chief, wanted to know what's worse of the 2 evils, and Joey Logano said it's tight in the middle. That's our concern for the race tonight. They're making a spring change. Steve?
Thanks, Wendy. Hermie, DW talks about that a lot. We have some oil on the track, too, there, just off of turn 2. But if you're tight in the center, it kills not only the middle, but it kills your exit, all your momentum getting off the corner.
Yeah, too tight in the center, one of 2 things are going to happen. Either you're going to have the front wheels turned too much and scrub off a lot of speed, and once you pick the throttle back up, like John West Townley's talking about, if you've got the front wheel turned too much and get back to the throttle, once those front wheels catch, it'll actually snap the back of the car around, and in no-win situation. I like what DW says a lot, Jeff, when you're talking about your car. You fix what the driver says first. If he says, I'm too tight in the center and I'm free off, a lot of times if you make it roll the center better, it'll help that exit.
Let's go back to Wendy.
All right, Reed Sorensen running that autism awareness decal on the car. Pretty cool thing. We talked about it earlier in the week, but let's talk about your race car right now, 10th fastest on the chart. How does it feel?
Feels pretty good. We were really loose the whole start of practice, and we've been slowly tightening it up. So the Dollar General car is pretty good now. It's a little more comfortable to drive, and I think we got more laps on our tires than anybody else. So we're trying to see where everybody else is and what they're running, but I think we're pretty good, and we're just going to try to get the back a little more comfortable and see if that hurts the front. But the Dollar General car is good.
I heard you say that 3 and 4 felt a little bit weird. Describe what that means, Reed.
Well, what happened was we made a change and it did the opposite of what it was supposed to. So that seems to happen more than you think. So we changed it back, and it's just you get that mindset of what a change is supposed to do, and it does the opposite, and sometimes that's the way it goes. But we put it back, and that very last run, the car was pretty comfortable, so I'm pretty happy with it.
All right, good luck to Reed in his 3rd race in the Nationwide Garage Series for Braun Racing this year. Steve?
Wendy, a great track for Reed Sorensen. 4 consecutive finishes of 8th or better here at Phoenix with a best finish of 2nd.
I tell you, these cars, as well as the Camping World trucks, are a lot different to drive. It takes a different setup because you don't have near as much horsepower as you've got in a Sprint Cup car. I ran the truck race at Martinsville a couple weeks ago, and it took me about 50 or 60 laps in the race to realize you cannot drive these things like a Cup car. You can't go down in the corner and completely stop and turn and go the other way because you don't have that horsepower. You've got to let them roll through the middle a lot better, and a driver's a big part of that, getting on the brake but also getting off that brake and letting these cars roll.
Still under caution while they clean up the track off of turn 2 and down that back stretch. Caution came out an hour and 5 minutes in, or about 7 minutes under caution right now. They got to get this place cleaned up before they go back to practice.
I can tell you something else too, guys, is that one of the things with having all that speedy dry, and it looks like a lot of it's right in that groove coming through the dog leg area, I wouldn't be too anxious to go out there until some people went out and kind of cleared the racetrack for me.
Paul Menard is 4th quickest in his 4. I believe Bob Dillner standing by with Menard.
That's right. Paul Menard has been in the pit area for a while, trying to figure out exactly what's going on with this car as you progress through this practice session. And it has changed a lot for you listening to your radio, hasn't it?
The track's it started off having a lot of grip, and as the sun comes up and it heats up, we slow down, obviously, but the car's not changing a whole lot balance-wise, so I think we have a fast car. We just need to see what it's going to do when the sun goes down tonight. Base that off our first run today and make some adjustments for tonight.
How much more do you practice then in this next part of the practice, being that you're going to be racing a little bit later on tonight when the sun goes down?
Oh, Matt's got tricks up his sleeve he wants to try, so if nothing else, we can always hit the reset button and go back to where we are now, but we want to keep trying things and see if we can improve it.
Paul Menard, I tell you what, guys, he has certainly matured as a race car driver over the past year or two, doing really well in the Cup Series and doing pretty darn good over here in the Nationwide Series as well.
And Bob, while you were talking to Paul, Jeff Hammond pointed out that the cat in the hat, Jack Roush, was close by.
Yeah, Ford's looking good so far. 3 of the top 4 speeds so far are Ford. You got Carl Edwards 2nd, Greg Biffle in that Baker curve car we talked about earlier, 3rd fastest, and Paul Menard. And I agree, he's been one of the pleasant surprises, not only in the Nationwide Series, but Sprint Cup Series so far this season.
And I like what he was trying to explain to us, as far as how this racetrack's going to go. And this is where that patience and experience comes into play, of not to over adjust and get yourself out there chasing a racetrack that's getting way hotter than you're going to be racing on later on.
One of the rivers that runs just outside the racetrack. Otherwise, it's a beautiful desert scene here in Phoenix. We'll be right back. Tomorrow, NASCAR Raceway is in Phoenix. We'll relive all the action from Martinsville and the renewed rivalry between Jeff Gordon and Matt Kenseth. That's all on NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot, live tomorrow at 5 Eastern, only on Speed. Still under caution. Let's go down to Bob Dillner.
Well, Steve, listening to you guys during the commercial break talk about who hasn't been on the racetrack yet, this is one of the guys, Kenny Wallace, here in the garage area in his number 28. How come?
Well, we're surviving. As everybody knows right now, it's pretty tough. And my car owner, Jay Robinson's got a good plan put together. See, we race all the races. We never start and park. That's not part of our program. But by not practicing all 2 hours, we save about $7,000 in tires. So we race the whole race. We'll get in about 30 minutes of practice here, and that'll allow us to race the whole year. 25th in the points right now. So I want to thank my sponsor. I got a tequila company on the Sol Azul, and then Federated Auto Parts has been with us. So, I mean, that's the brutal truth.
But I want to know, we all know how hyper you are. I think he usually has about 8 Mountain Dews in the morning to get his self kick started. But how are you dealing with this not being on the racetrack? You bored?
I will have to say that I've got a great car owner, but I'll look you in the face and tell you, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my career. I feel like we got a couple sponsors on the hook for next year, and that's what keeps me going right now. This is a real low time in my career. And if anybody wants me to sell their product right now, I see this is a tough deal right now. But we'll push through it, because we got a good little team. So we're in survival mode. I guess you could say we're in fetal position, and we can't just blow all our money in practice, because we'll blow it all in the race.
By the way, it's Steve and the boys back in the booth. No Ted.
Hi. Oh, really? Hey, is that you, Bernsey? Hey,
what's
buddy,
up, K-Dub?
Oh, Hornblower. Hey, tell everybody Kenny Wallace needs a sponsor, and they can call this number, 704-784-4648, or go to kennywallace.com. I'll sell your product.
You know how many phone calls he's going to get now, Burns?
It's going to blow up, Bob.
Operators are standing by.
And we're back underway. We had a delay of about 12 minutes. John West Townley put down some oil after hitting the wall in turn 2, so we're back underway. Hermie, we've got about, let's see, about 40 minutes of practice left. Their one and only practice.
Yeah, these guys, need to get back on the racetrack. We only got one, as you mentioned, 2-hour practice session. So, this is a vital time for some of these guys that have to really get qualified in this race as well.
Jason Bowles in the 09 car this week. Scott Riggs has been behind the wheel of that race car, but Bowles has a lot of experience out here. He's a West Coast driver, 27 years old. has a win here in the Camping World West Series. That was a year ago this April.
Driving for Robbie Benton, and they've got their car up there in that top 30 owner points, so we know he'll be racing come later on tonight.
Yeah, Scott Riggs did a really good job in this car getting him. They missed a race at Bristol, but other than that, a string of solid top 15, top 20 finishes, you know, with a startup team that, so you know, Scott did a good job getting in position to get that car locked in.
Yeah, he's currently in the 19th position. Here's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the number 6 car for Roush Fenway. And we looked a little earlier at Colin Braun in the 16, and we talked about him being out of the top 30 in points. Well, the 6 car finds himself also outside the top 30 in points. And, you know, I don't mind saying this, having worked with Jack Roush, that is not a position that he's going to accept. And this organization is better than that. These drivers, I think, are better than that. They had some bad luck, but they've also struggled a lot this year. You know, I know that both these guys are, you know, Colin's got more experience maybe than Ricky. You know, Ricky's running Rookie of the Year this year, but at the same time, they got to pick up the pace, or I'm sure that Jack's going to get a little bit frustrated.
And we've talked about it before, Jeff. That is such a tough position to be in terms of the race, because you have to concentrate so much just to get your car in the race. Once the race starts, you're compromised.
Exactly, and that's one of the positions you put yourself in. And you take a look here at a guy that will definitely be in the race tonight, Kevin Harvick, a 33 car, last week's winner at Nashville. And you take a look at his, as they say, his series as far as point ranks: Camping World Truck Series 4th, Nationwide Series 5th, and currently Sprint Cup 4th, and at least one Phoenix win in each of these series. I mean, he's just tough here. He really is.
Hermie, I've always wondered this. Why do certain drivers tend to be so good at certain tracks? And we know Harvick is good at a lot of places, but why does a driver take to a certain track more than another?
Well, a lot of it is having good race cars at those tracks, but another part of it is knowing what the kind of feel you want to have in your car at that track, and knowing how to relate that to your crew chief.
And Mike Lynette back on track, 5 minutes in on his warm-up lap. Let's take a look at what happened to Annette coming off his first top 10 finish of the year at Nashville. Spins it around on early exit of basically between 3 and 4.
And he was on sticker tires. We talked about that, and we also saw, you know, John West Townley talking about sticker tires, maybe getting him in a little bit of trouble. So that's definitely something to keep your eye on.
And Jeff, you talked about it. They had to make a quick decision. They went to the backup, and he's getting some time on this racetrack with about 30 minutes remaining.
Yeah, that's a good job out there by his crew and the folks at NASCAR working with him to get everything through the safety inspection, to give Michael an opportunity chance to get out there and see what his race car has to offer. And that could be very big as far as his race is concerned tonight, trying to keep that car, you know, up in the top 30 in points. I mean, currently he was, I think, 10th in points. We're riding along now with taking a look at Jason Keller in the 35 car, out the bumper cam of the number 7 car being driven by Landon Castles.
And Jeff, going to break, we mentioned that Justin Allgaier has 5 consecutive top 5 finishes. The last time that was done, Jason Keller and Jeff Green, teammates at PPC, did it in 2001. I believe, Hermie, they finished 1-2 in the points that year.
Great season for those guys.
Getting word, too, that Annette did not change the motor. Come back, Keselowski still quickest in Phoenix. And that graphic telling you who has run the best 5 consecutive laps, which, Hermie, we've talked about is actually more important than who has run the single fastest lap.
Yeah, it really is. That's what you're looking for. The guys that are locked in and looking for that 5-lap, 10-lap average, and, you know, speed and balance and air pressure and those kind of things can really you know, be a key to having a good car in the long run here.
Look who's on the racetrack.
The shy one has made it out with Sol Azul Tequila. Is that Blue Sun? I think that's Blue Sun.
Blue Sun?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go back to Bob Dillner.
Just want to report on Michael Annette. You guys showed him on the racetrack. Obviously bare quarters on this car because they don't have the decals on it yet. But that run basically just about dotting the I's and crossing the T's, making sure there are no leaks in this race car, making sure that it's pretty close. Michael Annette says, you know, it's a little bit tight in the center of the corners, but that's certainly something they're going to work on. This is one of the teams that will be scrambling as we get to the end of this practice session because they need to dial in this car for qualifying here at Phoenix.
All right, thank you very much, Bob Dillner. And I want to take a second. Larry Mack just walked into the booth getting ready for NASCAR Sprint Cup Series practice here on speed. That reminds me.
He's got his shirt off, too.
He does. He's got you're a handsome. Oh, he's flexing the. Oh, he's an animal. But I want to mention that Larry Pearson is home now. He left the hospital. He was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I know that Larry McReynolds and his wife Linda went and visited Larry Pearson and his wife Kathy, and he's got a long road ahead, but just wanted Larry to know we're all thinking about you. Two-time series champion.
Yeah, I was talking to some folks down there, said they had to build a wheelchair ramp and do a couple of some, I guess you might say, little remodeling so they can get Larry in and
renovating,
out. Yeah,
yes.
so the wheelchairs and some things he's going to be going through. But Larry, we just want to wish you well, and glad you're doing as great as you are.
Another look at Casey Mears in the 10 car. He is 13th overall. I mentioned earlier, Hermie, 5 different drivers in the last 5 races in that 10 car for Braun Racing.
Yeah, but I tell you, they do a pretty good job of rotating drivers in and still have a competitive race car, but that is very difficult to do. Crew chief's got to be really understanding, and the guy who puts the seats in those race cars has got to be, he's a busy guy too, but they do a good job of doing it and keeping that car pretty competitive.
Stuart Cooper is the crew chief on that 10 car. Trevor Bayne in the 99 back on the racetrack. Bob has an update.
Well, Trevor Bayne is pretty comfortable inside his race car, a little loose upon exit for Trevor. And I talked to the team and they said, you know what, Trevor's a young kid here at Phoenix trying to get adapted to this racetrack. It's all about laps, and that's what they're trying to do with this team here today. They're taking this practice session and getting Trevor comfortable, making sure that when tonight comes, he's going to be good to go on this tricky race course. And Steve, we all know Phoenix, this is kind of like the Bermuda Triangle here. Anything can happen.
Bob, this place is tricky to get around, and in the race, Hermie, I've seen a time or two drivers get impatient and use that bumper to get somebody out of the way.
Yeah, and it really is. There's not a lot of room to pass here. Everybody wants that same piece of real estate, and I tell you, coming off turn 4, you see a lot of activity there because it's kind of narrow, kind of bumpy where you get down on that apron, and missing a wreck on this front stretch can be a challenge because you got walls on both sides in a very narrow place. So you can see a lot of excitement coming off turn 4 on this front stretch.
Kyle Busch, 5th quick in his Combos Toyota.
Hermie, let me ask you another question too. As far as I know, as a crew chief, this is also another one of those racetracks where the pit road can be very tricky, and having a good qualifying speed, big benefit. So, from a driver's perspective, how do you rank, getting on pit road here?
It's tough. I mean, these boxes are very, very narrow, very tight on pit road, and we saw Jimmy Johnson take advantage of that numerous times here, qualifying up front and getting that front pit box. Here in Martinsville, the place we were at last, are 2 of the tracks that really stands out. Another reason you need a good qualifying run is a good pit road selection here at Phoenix.
Justin Allgaier climbs out of his machine. And Wendy, what's going on with Carl Edwards in the 60?
Well, it seems 1 and 2 has been the problems for a majority of the drivers, and that's the case still for Carl Edwards, whose car has been on scales, and he's hopped back in. He's getting ready to get a few more laps out there. But his crew chief, Drew Gleekensturfer, said that turn 1 and 2 has really been our Achilles heel for this practice session. Of course, it's a short day, limited practice, a one-day show. You got to go all for it, and that's the area of the racetrack where they've had the biggest concern today.
Yeah, Wendy, these teams checked into the garage yesterday, but that was just for inspection. So, in essence, this is, we talked about it, an old school one-day show where you practice, qualify, and race.
And, I'm a little bit surprised they're having trouble in 1 and 2. Usually guys complain about 3 and 4. 1 and 2 is where most of the time the banking and the way that you can kind of like run a little bit high, run a little bit low, I think, like Hermie was saying earlier, is a little bit more of a forgiving corner, so you can usually make up the difference.
We'll take you to commercial break. On board with Greg Biffle, a 3-time winner here at Phoenix. Brad Keselowski set quick time early in this practice, and he has remained atop the leaderboard, as Hermie said, Ford's very quick, the next 3, and then it's Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, teammates in their Toyotas. Brian Keselowski, the older brother of Brad, 38th overall, 27 laps of practice for Brian Keselowski.
Might want to check on that right there if it's Brian. I think
the 60 car is not pulling away and the 7 car is not catching you.
Could be Dennis Setzer driving this number 26 car according to my sheet.
25 minutes left for these Nationwide Series teams to get their cars dialed in.
I saw the numbers wrong.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I was looking at the black car, and I thought it was a 92 of Dennis Setzer. It's the black car, number 26 of
Looks like Gil Martin with that Sawzall. Let's go back to Bob.
It is Gil Martin down here, crew chief for Kevin Harvick on the Cup side. And actually a bunch of the Cup members from the 29 team are down here helping the 21 guys out get this car torn apart a little bit, because obviously they got to cut it to put it back in the trailer. And Gil is actually up underneath the car right now. And Gil, I know you're busy, but how come you're not busy getting that 29 car? You're over here getting ready.
Well, we had tech day yesterday, and these guys are a little bit short-handed right now, so we just came over to give them a hand.
All right, Gil Martin doing a little Sawzall work here on this race car, hopefully getting it in the trailer before the end of the day, Wendy.
Thanks, Bob. Jeff Hammond mentioned turn 3 being the problem for a majority of the drivers. That wasn't the case for Carl Edwards. However, for Kyle Busch, that's exactly the problem for Kyle. He can't arc it into turn 3. The longer he goes, the freer it gets. Late, especially in the center of 3 and 4, he said he has to cut the speed out of it, and that can never be a good thing.
Herman, you talked about that. You know, you got to be able to arc it into that corner. And you needed to roll through the center and be able to pick that throttle up. Otherwise, you're going to really lose a lot of speed through that part of the racetrack.
Yeah, and your car's got to be good and stable getting into these corners, especially turn 3, that late entry into the corner. If you turn that steering wheel too close or kind of shut that corner off, make it to a narrow entry, you'll slide up in the middle and kind of diamond the corners we talk about. And that just forces you to turn the wheel even more, can cost you some speed.
Brian Scott in the 11 car, won top 10 this year, 15th at Nashville. And there's a team right here, guys, that I think they're running better than their numbers indicate. In other words, I think the performance is there. We talked about that with Justin Allgaier. Just got to learn how to finish these races out.
Well, right now they're not that bad of a situation. I mean, they're 17th in points as far as that's concerned. And again, he showed a lot of talent, a lot of speed. He's currently 19th in this practice session. He's got a veteran crew chief over there in Billy Wilbur. They've got a lot of things going the right way. But again, I think maybe Brian spent a little too much pressure on himself. He would just kind of like maybe take a deep breath, relax a little bit, and be a little bit patient. This 11 team is very, very capable of running in the top 10 and contending for top 5 finishes every week.
Yeah, the performance is there. The finishes are not. But, you know, again, Hermie, we talked about that. That seems like two things at the opposite end of the spectrum, because race car drivers want to go fast, so it's hard to be patient.
Yeah, I mean, with a situation like Brian Scott, I mean, everybody looks at where do you finish? How are you running? I mean, in a young driver like him, sometimes you can try to put a little bit, like Jeff said, a little bit too much pressure on yourself to try to get it done right away, and sometimes that's not the right answer.
Let's go to Bob Dillner.
Well, Stephen Wallace actually coming down pit road right now, and he's been out on the racetrack, and this is what this team is working on, getting Stephen comfortable in the center of the corner. He said it's very unstable there. Sometimes it doesn't want to cut, sometimes it cuts too much. So what this team is working on as he pulls on the racetrack right now is actually the rear shock and spring package. They actually tried a bunch of different things. He's coming into the garage here right now, and they're going to work on that a little bit more, but that's where Stephen is actually struggling during this practice session. 21st quick, Wendy.
Joey Logano's car's back on scales. His crew chief, Kevin Kidd, said we need to get a little bit more speed. We're close, but we do need more speed. Where can we help you, Joey? And he said our biggest problem is landing. If we can fix the landing, we can be a lot more consistent. That's the area of the track they're working on, and they feel they have some time to make some major adjustments because they feel they've tested everything else in this practice session. One more try to get a little bit more speed out of the 20 car.
Good sense of the speed here out of the 99 car, driven by Trevor Bayne out the rear bumper. Hermie, it's a lot quicker from that standpoint than it looks from on top of this racetrack. That gives you a great sense of speed.
Yeah, you're really carrying a lot of speed, and it's cool to listen to him try to get on this throttle. He's feathering the throttle, and as you can tell, coming off turn 2. But listen how much he's out of the throttle in 3 and 4. Listen to this.
And it sounds like he doesn't stab that throttle. He eases back into it.
You can't. I mean, that's the thing. There's not enough banking down there to catch the car when you accelerate too quick. Now, if you get the car up underneath you, yeah, you can do a little bit, but you'll never ever hit that thing wide open off of turn 3, off of turn 4 here at Phoenix. It just doesn't work that way.
But he's letting the car roll through that corner very nicely. He's not trying to really stick it over in the corner too far, and he's getting out of the throttle a little bit early, letting it roll, and starting to ease back into it a little bit early. And he's got a pretty good-looking line around this racetrack right now.
2 things important here: car control, throttle control. Match them up, you got a winning combination.
Right now, Trevor Baines 7th overall. Sprint Cup practice follows us here on Speed. Busy day. Stay with us for all the action NASCAR live. Hermie will be with me out of the speed stage, Sprint Cup final practice, and then Sprint Cup qualifying. That is essentially Artie Kempner's schedule with the exception of trackside.
Well, he took the other week off. He's been off for 2 weeks, so, you know, he needs to work a little extra. Get back in the flow.
Josh Wise, one of the last drivers to get back out on track or get on track for the first time. He actually did so a little while. 32nd quickest overall. Got about, say about 16, 17 minutes of practice left. First and final practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series teams. You know, Jeff, Hermie, as we go on board, we've talked about this a couple of times, but it bears repeating, and that is, it was 63 degrees when we came on the air, 8 a.m. locally. The high today is going to be 88. So this track is going to get really slick. They're going to race. Essentially, the race will start at dusk and finish under the lights here. It's going to go through such a swing in terms of grip and everything else that drivers concern themselves with.
You got to stay focused on what your time is. I mean, you really need to have good notes. You can go back and reference, Steve. You talk about track temperature, ambient temperature. There are 2 different things. I mean, when it's 88 degrees outside, this track temperature is going to be up over 120. And, you know, the fact that what this racetrack's going to do is going to pull all the oils back up out of the grooves and the cracks, and it's going to, like you said, get slick. So you got to be smart enough not to get yourself chasing this racetrack and just try to stay focused on it. And Hermie, I mean, as you as a driver, I mean, you have to be sometimes told, hey, Hermie, you know, don't worry about the racetrack. Just think about the way it's going to be later on tonight. I mean, is it hard not to get yourself caught up in it? All of a sudden somebody goes out there and runs a little bit better or looks a little bit better than you do, you know, because they got their car set up for a slick condition.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, keeping your eye on the prize, which is, you know, tonight on lap 200, you know, and that's when experience comes back into play. Driver and crew chief saying, listen, we're not racing right now. We know based on our years past and when we were here last fall, this is what the field we needed or the balance we needed this time of day to be good at night. So you've got to understand that, you know, to be really good tonight, you may not be quite as good today, so you've got to keep all those factors in consideration.
Well, if you're Greg Biffle or Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, you know that. But I think if you're a young guy like Brian Scott, Justin Allgaier, you know, they want to be fast now.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell yourself, that crew chief saying, don't worry about it, we're going to be quick later tonight.
And it can work the other way sometimes too. You know, when I first started and when I was young and rookie on the racetrack, you get behind some experienced guys, they could be really, really loose during the course of the day, and I could say, okay, I got them. But when that nighttime fell, those cars hooked up and I was too tight, then you learn after a while where you need to be.
Bob, what's going on with Landon Castle?
Well, nice to see Landon Castle, the former ASA champ, actually here in the garage area in the Nationwide Series. Right now he's 31st quick, Steve, and he's working on the balance coming upon exit of the corner. He said it's just not stable and they need to work on that a little bit. So they actually went up on the scale pads and they're putting a brand new setup on this machine right now for Landon Castle. And you take a look at him at 31st, his teammate Kelly Byers is 12th. you know, you take a look at that and you figure, wow, what a discrepancy right there. But really, those tines were set early on, like you guys have noted so much. So right now, they're just concerning themselves with race setup and getting landing comfortable because he hasn't been behind the wheel of a Nationwide car in a while, Wendy.
Bob, I really love the communication I've been hearing with Kevin Harvick and his crew chief, Ernie Cope. It's a lot of feedback and also trying to come up with some good ideas of what to do with this race car. Kevin Harvick needs more rear grip. He told Ernie, if you have any good ideas, let's try it. They've talked about track bar, wedge adjustments, a few things they're going to try before they get a couple more laps before this practice ends. The biggest concern is that the throttle has been sticking for Kevin Harvick. The pedal's sticking. There's a hard spot on a part of that pedal, on the top part of it. He said he's not sure. It's hard to tell if it's the linkage or if it's hitting something, but that's definitely something that they're working on. You never want that throttle to stick when you're out on the racetrack.
All right, thank you, Wendy. And just to update, Bob was talking about Landon Castle. His last start, Memphis, last October, he finished 10th. From Kelly Byers, we go to Jason Leffler.
Jason's got a lot of experience around this racetrack, not only in Nationwide Series cars, but a lot of open wheel events that have been raced here throughout his career.
Bob?
Leffler not happy with his race car, Steve, right now. He keeps on talking about side bite on the center and the exit of the corner. And he said, I don't care what you guys got to do, but we got to figure out how to fix my side bite. It just won't hook up coming from the center and up off the corner. That's what Jason Leffler is complaining about right now.
Final moments of NASCAR Nationwide Series practice coming up. Stay with us here on Speed. NASCAR Nationwide Series practice, final minutes here at the Phoenix International Raceway. Steve Burns, Hermie Sadler, Jeff Hammond, Bob Dillner, and Wendy Venturini joining you for their first and only practice on board with Kevin Harvick. Chasing the track a little bit, Hermie.
He's fighting it.
He turns that thing back to the right. You know he's not completely happy with his car, so we'll see what he does down in turn one here.
Harvick working his 38th lap of practice.
That's such a great shot of what the driver is doing inside the race car.
He's not exactly having a walk through the park there. He's just having to hang on to that race car a little bit.
Car's not driving itself, is it?
I love the line Buddy Baker said years ago, you can't throw a brick in a car and make it turn left. I'm trying to give those drivers a little credit, Herman.
Can't do that when Hamlin's around. He don't allow that.
What do you mean?
Kyle Busch, 7th overall.
You guys are an important part of that race car. You're part of it.
178 nationwide starts for Kyle Busch. Pretty amazing numbers. He's already got 31 wins, which ties him for 3rd all-time with Jack Ingram. 18 poles for Busch as well. Let's go back to Bob.
Well, there you see the car from the 21 John West Townley. What's going on right now is a lot of the team members are stealing parts from that car and bringing it all the way over to this car. Now, there is still some hope on getting John West Townley back out on the racetrack with this car, but they are a long ways from finishing this car up. I just spoke to crew chief Dan Deringhoff, and he told me, hey, we are scrambling. We're thrashing right now. Brake blowers, all sorts of ducting. They're switching all components from one car to the other, but right now they doubt very much whether they're going to get this car on the racetrack. And that's a big thing, crew chief Mr. Jeff Hammond, for a driver, especially a young one like John West Townley going into qualifying. How much can that affect this entire team for the rest of the day here?
Well, it can hurt it, Bob. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You'd like to have the driver be confident that when he gets out there to make a qualifying attempt and they drop the green flag later on the night, he's going to know what he has. And I think that's something they're going to try to do. But they've also got to be careful. This is the only car they've got left. So if they do go back out on the racetrack, John West Townley's got a lot of pressure put on him to make some very conservative laps, get some feedback, make sure everything's not rubbing and all the oil lines are good and tight, but to be very careful. We saw how quickly it happened to Michael Annett just coming up to speed. It also happened to him trying to make a qualifying attempt. You've got to be careful, otherwise you can crash your one and only race car.
You know, better balance-wise, but not much at all.
The thoughts of Carl Edwards. So we move to Scott Lagasse in the 43 car. Lagasse's really picked it up. He is in the top 5 now, boys. He's 5th overall.
And I think a lot of that has to do, we've discussed it before, Greg Biffle, his teammate, is 3rd quickest. You got to believe that he's getting some ability. I take that back. We now have a new guy at the top of the leaderboard, Greg Biffle, in the 27 car. Again, teammate with Scott Lagasse. I guess putting fresh tires on and putting some pretty good qualifying laps down.
And that's a good deal for Scott Lagasse, too, to have a guy like Greg Biffle as his teammate to really give him some assurance of what's going on with that race team.
Well, I guess, Hermie, if you're going to have a teammate, that's the way it should work.
Yeah, it really should be. I mean, you got an experienced guy like Greg Biffle, a guy with Scott Lagasse that needs some experience, and it's good to have that proven winner in Greg Biffle that he can go talk to about the racetrack, but also it's got to give him confidence that those guys at Baker Curb have got their cars really running well, and you know, give them confidence in what they got going on.
Lagasse, 12th in points, 29 years old, has just 40 nationwide series starts, battling with Keselowski.
There's Setzer.
There he is.
That's what I was confused about. When I looked and saw the flat black car with the white numbers, I'm thinking Dennis Setzer in the 92, and sometimes I get my numbers backwards.
But that is a car owned by the Keselowskis.
And that's another reason probably why they look very similar.
It's okay, Jeff.
But the number's a number, and I missed the number.
Your heart's in the right place.
I'm sorry.
Closing minutes of NASCAR Nationwide first and final practice. Qualify later today and then race in the early evening.
Is that anything like one and only?
It's exactly right.
Okay.
It is not the penultimate.
Really?
Which is next to last. It's the only.
Okay.
I didn't know that word, Hermie. I heard Mike Joyce say it.
Please don't ask me to define it.
I heard Mike Joyce say it. Greg Biffle just popped up.
Got trouble in turn 4 right there.
Car in the wall, sliding between turns 3 and 4.
Gonzalez in the 05.
Victor Gonzalez, Puerto Rican driver. Can't tell yet how much damage to the back of that race car.
It's pretty significant. It really is.
See if we can see what happened to Gonzalez.
And again, I'm speculating, Steve. I would be willing to believe he's probably trying to make a qualifying run. Fresher tires, and we've seen fresh or new tires or fresh tires get these guys in trouble. That's what it looked like happened to the 05.
That is the worst time to have something like that happen, Jeff. Right at the end of practice, too, so you got really no chance to try to get a backup car on the racetrack if that's what they decide to do.
Yeah, the good news for Gonzalez, they are 28th in car owner points, so he is locked in.
That is the good news for sure. Take a look at Brad Keselowski, second quick in this practice session. Just recently got knocked off the top spot by Greg Biffle.
Good point, Jeff. And which is more impressive, the one, speaking of Greg Biffle?
Oh, look out. Don't run over me.
A little fun in the garage. Is it more impressive that Biffle posted that lap later or that Keselowski posted it early? We heard there was more grip early, but your thoughts on that?
Again, I think it all kind of like depends on what you're looking at for the balance in the race car. We discussed the racetrack. Did Greg Biffle wind up getting caught up into tuning the car to the slick racetrack and making his car fast there? And did Keselowski opt to leave the car like it was when it was quick early in the morning?
I think both Biffle and Keselowski have really good race cars, but I'm a little bit more impressed with Greg Biffle's lap. 2 hours into a practice session, the track's hotter and slicker. For him to run that lap at the end of practice, pretty good Pretty good run for Biff, P1.
Kevin Harvick, you see some of the guys hustling, including Greg Biffle. They're going to go next door to the Sprint Cup Series garage. That follows us here in just a few minutes.
Look at Kevin right there. He's telling the crew member right there, I need to do a little bit of work with my headrest. It looks like it's not quite comfortable. We take a look at Joey Logano. He's making his morning jog to the garage area from one garage area to the other. Up, pit stop. Pit stop.
Pit stop. A lot of veteran speed up there atop the timing and scoring chart, Hermie.
Trevor Bain, P4, he had a really good looking car in practice. Look for him to have a good run. Paul Menard, Scott Legacy, good practice session for him also.
As we said earlier, we'll take a look at the rest of these guys through top 20. Qualifying up front, if you think you want to win this race, you may want to thinking about being in the top 4.
Yeah, 13 of the 16 NASCAR Nationwide Series races here at PR have started from a top 4, not top 10, top 4 starting position. And pit stop is complete. We're going to make a stop over to the speed stage, catch up with John Roberts.